Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my astrology podcast. It's Ethan here. Today, we're going to be talking about a lovely month that we have ahead of us. Yes, you guys, in astrology, can you believe you're hearing it's going to be a lovely month? It really is, and it really can be, because astrology reflects life, right? And life has its ups and downs. Sure, there's a couple downs this month. How could there not be? But in general, I want to say that this is an easeful, calm, serene, life-giving Taurus season that we're in. And so, because we're already a week into May, I'm just gonna hop right in and start by recapping last week, the week of May 1st. So, on Friday, May 1st, two significant astrological events happened that honestly might be some of the hardest you're going to experience all month. That was a full moon in Scorpio, number one. And number two, we had a Chiron Mercury conjunction that same day. So, starting with the full moon in Scorpio, if on Friday there was a lot of sludge being trudged up from underneath the surface, shadows, secrets, parts of ourselves that aren't necessarily comfortable to inhabit coming up to the surface, it would have been a really good idea to spend some time in that, to spend some time in that soil, because that's what full moons in Scorpio do. Scorpio is the sign of the underworld. It's in the northern hemisphere, the middle of fall. So it's when things are in decay and they're being prepared for rebirth. So when the moon is here, the moon is actually quite uncomfortable because the moon is about our comfort and our needs. Yet when the moon is in Scorpio, it's showing that one of the things we need to fulfill our needs, to feel more whole, to feel more comfortable, is to look at some of the dark stuff, the less easy stuff, right? Also on the full moon in Scorpio, because Scorpio is ruled by the planet Mars, this can lend itself to aggression, to frustration, to also a lot of motivation. But because it is this water sign we're talking about with Scorpio, usually I like to say those manifestations of Mars are happening subconsciously or psychologically or somewhere in our psyche, our inner world. So last Friday could have brought up a lot of that for you guys. Once again, that was May 1st. Okay, now on the same day, we're kind of getting a double whammy of confrontation here because Chiron, which is about wounds, it's about insecurities, it's about places we don't really feel complete or confident yet, that was receiving some attention from Mercury, which is the conversation starter, which is the question asker, which is the student. And so, possibly on this day, May 1st, there could have just been a lot of confronting fears in ourselves, insecurities, places that we don't yet feel ready to take action. I think because we're dealing with transits to Aries, that's where Chiron and Mercury were, and Scorpio, there's so much Mars in the air right now, right? There's such this initiating, let's go, let's take action energy. And it feels like when we reach that point, there's a lot that gets expunged from us. There's a lot of really releasing that has to happen. It's like an exfoliant that you put on your skin and, the pimples fall away or the oils come out. It's like in order to really heat up and take the action from that heat has to burn away at whatever's going to hold us back, at whatever's going to stand in our way. And so I feel like the opportunity was over the weekend to really let that process of getting all the dirt out of our systems, of sweating it all out so that we feel refreshed, renewed, and ready to take our action path. And that moves me on to what happened on Sunday, May 3rd, which was Mercury going into Taurus. Now, I am a lover of all things Taurus. Taurus does make a square to some of my planets, okay? So I have a little bit of conflict with Taurus, namely, the pace it takes. Oh, it's an earth sign, it's fixed, so it can be quite slow. I'm a fire sign, so I like to go very fast. But what I will say is that with so much Mars in the air, it's really nice to have a grounding, earthy counterbalance to all that fire, that we're feeling. And Mercury being once again that planet of the mind, I feel like, okay, it got some closure from Chiron, right? It was able to kind of look through some wounds or accept what was coming up to the surface and make a nice, stable entrance to the sign of Taurus. So Mercury's now in Taurus. We're looking at communication that's a bit more grounded, right? Our minds feeling a bit more settled, focusing more on the practical as well. Because Mercury's just been in Aries, it's like our minds could have had a lot of bursts, a lot of ideas. And in Taurus, which perfectly comes after Aries, we have to ground those ideas, right? It's like Aries is the hailstorm, and then Taurus is the crops that are supported by that hailstorm. So right now we're germinating, we're supporting, we're growing, we're harvesting the ideas that came to us in a flash through all that Aries energy throughout the month of April. So that moves us into the current week, the second week of May, where there's actually not a lot of significant astrological energy in the air. Obviously, we just had Uranus move into Gemini. So that is really going to be describing some of the changes we could be feeling generally in this moment. We have Saturn and Neptune now in a new sign as well. They are in Aries. So we really have a lot of fire and air in the climate right now. Okay. There really is a lot of energy and action taking going on, a huge period of initiation, I feel. On Uranus and Gemini, I did not do a special episode for that on my channel because I did one with my good friend Tan Astrology. You guys can check it out. I'll put the link to Uranus and Gemini on her podcast in the show notes below. We also just did the first part of a series on the houses, so make sure to check that out on my channel as well. But anyway, so Uranus and Gemini, right? That's like a huge shift in the collective right now. To sum it up, Uranus is our big breakthrough, awakening, challenge to realize our individuality. And when that's going through Gemini, it's looking at all the places, in my opinion, that we are divided in ourselves or divided in the culture, because Gemini, right, is the twins. It divides into two. And so I feel like also a part of this alchemical energy right now is like we're starting to maybe break through the dualities, right? We're starting to break through some of these, well, that's for them, and this is what's for me. Well, that belongs to those people, and this is what my people do. Uranus and Gemini, I feel like, is just going to destroy our our schisms, our chasms, our dualities in society. And it's going to make us realize more and more and more where we've been cutting ourselves off and trying to find space for that duality, trying to find space for two things to be true at once, for two groups to get along. As much as it can be the opposite of that, right, which would be going to war, I think it's also a huge opportunity for peacemaking in ourselves and in the world, because Gemini is all about negotiations and conversations and hashing things out with one another and, debates. And so when we find the courage to partake in that kind of energy, there can be tremendous benefits, tremendous intellectual progress, community building, right? Relationships. Gemini, I also think comedy. I feel like comedy is going to be making a comeback. Yes, I feel like comedy has been really out during Uranus and Taurus. I don't know why. I feel like things got really serious there in the culture for a minute. And I think we're going to start seeing some more comedy come back. Okay, but that's getting us a bit off track of May, because what we have this week on Wednesday, May 6th, is Pluto, our outermost planet, going retrograde. And, Pluto is about those dark and harsh themes that live within us, often that have been repressed or, shoved away. And Pluto's in Aquarius. Aquarius is in the collective. Aquarius is in the public square. It's with the people. And so I feel like there have been enough events recently in pop culture, in current history, where there's been so much violence, right? Pluto. There's been so much war, Pluto. There's been so much destruction of the social order that this retrograde is on at least personal levels an opportunity to reflect on where the shadow in ourselves is. Because we're always scrolling and watching the shadows in the world, right? But this is a real opportunity to sit with, right? A retrograde is about sitting with something, stewing on something. Like, where is the global conflict? Where is this war in me? Where is this in our psyche? Where, once again, because Pluto is trining Uranus and Gemini, so there's this relationship between that Gemini lesson I was talking about. Where is this relationship between the shadow and the duality? Where is there this relationship between, what we repress and how we're divided? And how what keeps us divided is our inability to reconcile with what each other shares, right? Pluto and Uranus being an air signs. Air signs are about making connections, right? And finding where there are related factors between phenomena. So I feel like this is going to be an opportunity this week for all of us to at least be invited to consider, what do I share with that person that I really disagree with? You know, or not, there's the Gemini, right? Or not, or the contrary, or, these lines of division in our culture can be sowed even further, even deeper, right? The shadow can be even more claustrophobic. But I really think what this Pluto retrograde is asking for, this ingress of Uranus to Gemini, is to do some of that shadow work, because what it's going to reveal is, I think, collectively where we feel stuck, collectively where we feel divided, where that person has something that I don't agree with, and therefore they're shunned out. What part of ourselves are we shunning out in that equation? Okay. So that's this week, Pluto retrograde. That's what will be the focus. And go look at your chart and where Aquarius is in your chart, what house it's in, because that's where some dark, big, deep themes are coming through, and making you maybe reconsider shadow parts. Okay. So going on to the third week of May, we have a lot more action in this third week of May. On Thursday, May 14th, we're going to have a real burst of clarity and creativity, because the Sun and Mercury are Cazimi. That's when they are right in front of each other. Or, sorry, Mercury in front of the Sun. You get what I'm saying? They're connected. This blesses us with insights, with clarity, with new ideas. I think of a Mercury Cazimi as the Ace of Wands card. It's really just a green light to go for it. So be alert to creative ideas on this day, to new beginnings, because it's Taurus. I have a feeling it's going to be something creative, or maybe for some of you, depending on the house Taurus is in, it's going to be a new job opportunity. It's going to be something opening up where the connections, right? That's Mercury, that you've been making, either mentally or socially, are really going to be fusing into some moment of exaltation, some moment of recognition, some moment of culmination, which is going to allow you to have a new start in the Taurus part of your chart. Okay, then that Saturday, following on this theme of new beginnings, we have a new moon in Taurus, okay? So that is when the sun and moon are similarly conjunct or in the same place in the sky, which makes the moon disappear. So a new moon in Taurus is a really beautiful time for taking what that Cazimi brought us and really allowing it to grow inside of us. So, this is a time to really nourish and gnaw on and salivate on and just really appreciate what's been given to us, to slowly digest it. Really good time, especially because Mercury is in Taurus, to plan. Mercury in Taurus is very methodical, it's very practical, it's very reviewed, it's very read. So it's a grounded mind. This is a time to really be grounding and setting up our ideas, our impulses, our creativity for long-term success. So on that Saturday, if you work during the week and you have that weekend off, I would say, what is the project that's really exciting you? Today would be a great day to pull some tarot, ask for some direction on that project or on that new endeavor, and then integrate that to a schedule or something practical. It doesn't necessarily have to be that, but I do feel like this is just about our Taurus life, our material life, our resource life, right? Our money life, getting a bit more of an order put to it. Okay. Now, thank goodness we have all this Taurus energy in the air because, as I said, that Uranus in Gemini is definitely going to be felt. It's already being felt, but it'll be really felt at the end of this month because Mercury, okay, who moves fast, who has really fast cycles through the zodiac, is going into Gemini. So it'll move out of Taurus. We'll be grounded, we'll be clear, we'll be pretty, methodical in our steps this month. And then it goes back to a little crazy. It goes back to impulsive. It goes back to excitement. It goes back to fireworks in the brain because Mercury is at home in Gemini. Mercury loves to be out connecting, forming new ideas, sharing messages, sharing information. And that's exactly what Gemini does as well as a sign. It's the twins. It can talk to anybody. It can, go out and yeah, build new connections, new relationships. And so Mercury going into Gemini is going to have that buzzy effect. It's going to bring us out into the world. It's going to make us ask new questions and kind of go back into the marketplace. It's funny. I think of the Major Arcana Tarot, and I like to think of Gemini as the Hierophant, which some might disagree with. I have my own takes on how tarot and astrology relate, but the Hierophant is the public square. And I really think Gemini is the sign of the zodiac where we first get into the public square, where we first go out there with our ideas, we pitch ourselves, we try to sell something, right? We're using our communication, we're using our language. And the Hierophant is about that. It's about stepping up to the plate, making your voice heard, sharing, educating, or receiving education as well that will help you move forward. Now, whatever we are learning about, whoever we're connecting with, it's going to be outside the box. It's going to be risk taking. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be never been done before because Uranus and Mercury are going to conjunct the very next day. So, ideas that seem outside the box, communication that's a little funny, weird humor, humor that makes other people uncomfortable, really emphasizing actually uncomfortable here. Very important to lean into. Because once again, Uranus, which is that freeing energy, and Mercury, which is a very free kind of already radical intellectual energy, are going to be gassing each other up there for a day or so. So, and you'll feel the effects after that. So, on Sunday, May 17th, and in the days preceding it, be prepared for something in the mind to synchronize, for something in the mind to render, and then to get a bit more rendered, and then to be boom complete in some big explosive way. Big and explosive and uncomfortable are the domains of Uranus. Uranus, it is there for us. Uranus is cheering us on, but it doesn't always feel like it. Because Uranus confronts us with what is hidden, with what we can't see about ourselves, and therefore it's supporting our individuation. Uranus was invisible and continues to be invisible to the naked eye. And when it was discovered, it was the first planet beyond Saturn that we knew about. So Uranus represents things that are unseen, you guys. It represents things that are esoteric, or spiritual, or quantum, or scientific, or not yet discovered. So when we have a personal planet like Mercury interacting there is the capacity for our channels to be really wide that day. There is a capacity for this electric imagination to be firing on all cylinders. So I'm excited for that, but I think that only emphasizes what we said about planning and getting things in order before this date. Okay? Now, in our next week of May, the fourth week of May here, we have such a gorgeous aspect happening, such a gorgeous thing happening, which, Mercury, Uranus, that's going to be a little wild, right? That's going to be a bit of a ride. But then we're getting this really earthy, really homey, really lovey, really romancy Venus and Mars transit, where Venus is going to go into Cancer and Mars is going to go into Taurus. This is going to be happening between the 18th and the 19th of May. So, Mars is our masculine traditionally, Venus is our feminine. When they are in Taurus and Cancer, they are sextiling, which means that they are lovey-dovey, they're supportive, they're friendly. So our actions, which is Mars, our bravery, our going out into the world and taking action, has a really nice soft place to return to with Venus and Cancer. Similarly, Mars in Taurus gives that Mars energy some grounding, right? Some method, some practice, and some slowness as well. It's a cautioned Mars. It's where Mars is not always the happiest because Mars wants to go, but I think Taurus slowing it down is going to be very helpful. Venus, right? That's our values and our priorities and our sense of harmony in our lives. When it's in Cancer, it really shows that loved ones and people close to us are really, really important to supporting the actions that we're taking through this Taurus transit. So we really want to just hug our loved ones around this time, rally together, see how we can support each other. I'm talking dinner parties, gatherings, movie nights, things that are homey, that allow you to recharge and get out of all this kind of crazy mental energy. Also, salons, places where you guys can share your ideas. This is a great time for group activity work. Not big groups, but like small, intimate groups, like starting perhaps a small art collective would be great during this time, or a book group, or a poetry group, or something intimate and small, but that I think promotes, the expansion of what you're doing, but it's like not in this way that's rushing it or forcing it or pushing you too fast. It's people who feel like home, who can hold you in your big shifts. Okay. And then the sun will go into Gemini later that week on Thursday, May 21st. So, we often kind of under talk about the significance of the sun when it's transiting through the signs. But really, sun, I have noticed, does bring our energy into new places. So when the sun is going into Gemini, it is bringing our energy into that place of ideas, communication, friendship, very social. I feel like people who haven't been as social, the past couple months, like this is really your green light to go out there and make some new friends or to expand your social groups and horizons. Obviously, if you have Gemini in the 12th house, that might not apply to you. It might, but you know what I'm saying. It's going to depend on where Gemini is in your chart, obviously, where a lot of this action is taking place, but definitely the focus, sun is spotlight. It's like a camera lens. It focuses life into an area. Definitely that Gemini area of life getting turned up. And then anything that enters Gemini, soon it'll be Mars, right? It's gonna conjunct that Uranus. And glad Uranus does not conjunct Mars this month because that would be a lot. But the sun will conjunct Uranus, right? So babies born on that day are going to be little Einsteins. They're gonna be full of brilliant ideas, electrical energy, because that is what Uranus does. It fills us with electricity, and once again, that is helpful, it's supportive, it's awakening, it's inspiring, but most of the time it's really uncomfortable. Sun is what we are conscious of. It's our ego. It's our focus. It's what we see. The sun is this big eye in the sky. And Uranus is like what we can't see. So also on Thursday and Friday, May 21st and 22nd, there could just be a like, I don't know who I am. I don't know what's going on in my body. Weird anxiety out of nowhere, totally possible when the Sun and Uranus are together. Just a complete upset and shakeup of where we put our focus, our vitality, our energy, and our egos at. That is going to change. Okay. All right. Now, moving into the last bit of May on Sunday, May 31st, we have a full moon a full moon in Sagittarius. Okay. So full moons, great times for culminating, for wrapping things up, for things just being at a peak generally. So wherever, Sagittarius falls in your chart, something could be peaking here, being completed here, just finding a lot of oomph, and Sagittarius is the part of us that wants to be free and wants to explore and tell stories and kind of learn different stories as well. So I feel like on this full moon in Sagittarius, it's generally just a good idea to read the book you've been putting off, or to write the script you've been putting off, or to get the gears turning on something creative. Because Sagittarius, we always talk about as sort of a religious or philosophical sign. And while I think it is, what's cool about Sagittarius is that to me, it's sort of like the realm of sci-fi. Like things are just as scientific in Sagittarius as they are mythological. Sagittarius is that like half man, half horse. So he kind of represents that place between our sort of for lack of a better term, kind of more early human selves. I'm just going to say primal, but early human selves who were more maybe tapped into the environment, animal guides and spirits, nature spirits, and the modern man who's kind of more scientific and in the ego, you could say. So, a full moon in Sagittarius is really giving us the permission to inhabit this place between worlds in a way, this place between the scientific and the spiritual. I feel like this is going to be a day that's about rewriting our story. In the area of life, we have Sagittarius. I really do think of Sagittarians as storytellers. And they're the opposite of Gemini, right? So Gemini kind of gets the data. They are the documentarian who's learning, a bunch of different stories at once. And then Sagittarius is sort of like the director figure, or the one who synthesizes all that data into a fabulous story. Right? Most of history is just kind of a fabulous story, not based in any, well, I mean, based in short evidence and empirical truth, but it's switched around and told with emotions. And that's the job of Sagittarius, is to take something dry and statistical and kind of imbue it with color and imagination and the deep human need for something spiritual and larger than life. So have a larger than life day this day. Do some creative writing if that's your thing. Find yourself in the middle of something, hopefully, that is creative or blooming or just really exciting, and that kind of sets two worlds on fire, right? Can kind of blaze open this realm of fantasy as well as this realm of reality, and can really just inspire a lot of folks. So especially if like Sagittarius was your 10th house, right? Or something like that, then this could represent a point in your career where, you are really achieving something that expresses your innermost values when it comes to career, your innermost desires of what you want to create. So once again, check that house where you have Sagittarius for that specific area where this kind of supernatural, beyond the normal event is taking place. Also a great time to kind of, I don't know, do something magical or spiritual, or that connects you with the beyond this world. Because Sagittarius is also very interested in just what is beyond the scene, the known level. Okay, so that is May. As you can see, we're not dealing with all this, Saturn, Mars, Neptune, Aries explosion that we had to deal with in April, which was just, a lot of like stops and starts. This month feels like it has a smoother flow, with, I would say, some heightened, perhaps anxieties, mental, because we're so in Gemini right now, mental expansions, questions, but rewards if we lean into that, and a lot of grounding supportive energy to those kind of more intellectual processes. And I think by the end of the month we have a really lovely, buttery, full moon in Sag that just is going to be really delectable to bite on if we can hold the tension of our minds and kind of the air of Gemini with the earth. If we can find that place in between where they meet, where the ground meets the sky, if we can learn to live there and like be excited, but then have that place to come down to, it's going to be really helpful this month. So, thank you very much for watching. If you would like to book a reading with me, link is down below. So are the links to my social media, but just put it here, ethan-paisley.com if you would like to book a reading. And I will see you guys next week on the podcast. There's new episodes here every week. So thanks for staying tuned, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take care. Bye.